A deep breath in. A deep breath in. A deep breath in. Now that we have had so many deep breaths in, it's time to open our eyes. So, the knowledge sheet is something that used to happen. I think it started in 1995. And Gurudev said every week we'll send like one sheet, something that could fit in one side of paper, which could be faxed. In those days, it was the fax. It should be faxed all over the world, and people would be able to read it, contemplate on it, and integrate it into life and see how the knowledge could make a difference. It was magical. I remember we would all sit around Gurudev when we were with him, and then this knowledge would come up in that whole discussion. Gurudev would speak something, and then we would go back and forth, and some people would ask questions, and it was a magical way in which we would see this knowledge sheet coming up. And then when Gurudev was somewhere else, these knowledge sheets that would come every week would help to connect us with Gurudev in a very interesting way through the knowledge. And so for me, the knowledge sheets were something that was really my connection with Gurudev in the days when they would just be facts, or then later on it became an email. And when it reached 365 knowledge sheets, Gurudev sat back and said, "Well, there's one for every day of the year. So once enough people go through all these knowledge sheets, then we'll start talking about them again." So so that's how these knowledge sheets came together as a book, the intimate notes to the sincere seeker. And it's been an amazing journey with these knowledge sheets. So let me start with the first knowledge sheet. I thought this would be so apt, so relevant. So the first knowledge sheet, and one second, let me just open it up. There we are. Weekly knowledge sheet number one. And I'm going to read the knowledge sheets in the entirety, in in its totality, with every bit that came along with it. So this is weekly knowledge sheet number one, 21st June 1995, in Big Sur, California, USA. This begins a new practice. This begins a new practice of weekly dispatches of knowledge from Guruji. Every center around the world will receive the knowledge, so it can be read for people to copy down at weekly satsang. Here's the first segment Guruji dictated at Big Sur, 21st June 1995. Beyond an event is knowledge. Beyond a person is love. And beyond an object is infinity. Knowledge is not in an event, it is beyond an event. If you take one event and infer anything from one event, infer knowledge, it will be erroneous knowledge. Say Nancy gets angry and shouts at someone. I'll just go through the whole knowledge sheet and then we'll come back to it and dissect it a little bit. Say Nancy gets angry and shouts at someone. You attribute anger to Nancy, but actually it was carried from someone else to her. Someone else got angry first, and someone else, and on like that. When you go beyond an event, only then the truth dawns. One particular event gives you a false notion, so you have to consider the totality of events. The totality of all events infinitely. Beyond the event is knowledge. What do we call a person? A person is a body, a mind, a complex of behaviors which is changing. Love is unchanging. Beyond the person is love. When you lose your personality, you become love. If you cannot lose yourself, you cannot find yourself. So lose your personality, you'll find yourself. And beyond the object infinity. Object behind the object, the person is love. Maya is getting caught up in the event, personality, object. Knowledge, love, Brahman, is seeing beyond the event, personality, or object. See, just a little shift. Jai Gurudev. So, this is such a beautiful knowledge sheet. Beyond an event is knowledge. You know, when we look at every event, and Gurudev says very beautifully, if you take one event and infer anything from an event, it will be erroneous knowledge. And he gives a very beautiful example. One person gets angry, and you say, oh, this person is angry. But where did that anger come from? Because of something else. Something else that happened to that person that led to this person becoming angry. So, in a certain sense, all of uh, the events, when we take that in its totality, that gives us true knowledge. When we take one event in isolation, it can only give us erroneous knowledge. Now, practically, what does that mean for us? Often, in the way we meet people, we think, oh, this person said that, so I will behave like this with this person. That person did this, so I'm going to do this, and we infer something from that event. A good manager, a good organizer, a person who's more effective in life is able to look at the bigger picture. That's how great decisions can happen. Erroneous decisions happen when we have a limited identity. And so, this ability of us to gain the correct knowledge from any event happens when we are able to look beyond the event. Similarly, what do we call a person? Now, this is a very beautiful question. A person is a body, a mind, a complex of behaviors which is changing, and love is unchanging. So, when I say Kashi, then I say, hey, it's this body and this person who talks like that. I got a message saying that we're going to have this session. Oh, I like Kashi Bhaiya, let me go there. Or I think I'm going to get something. So this complex of behaviors, the way this person behaves, the physical aspect of that person, all of this is what we call a person. And this is changing. 20 years back, there was much less of me. I used to weigh 50 kilos. Nowadays, oh my God, there's lots more of me to love. Let's put it like that. So the body is changing, the mind is changing, the thoughts are changing, ideas are changing. Yet there is something that is not changing in all of this, and that's love. So Gurudev says very beautifully, why do I like chocolate cake? Because of love. Why do I do anything that I do? Why am I speaking this? Because of love. Why do I hate somebody? Because I love something else. Why do I feel greed? Because I love money. Why do I? So beyond behind every emotion, you'll find that there is one constant factor, and that's love. And that love is beyond the person. If I think that the person's behavior is love, then that's going to change. In every relationship we see that the outward expression does keep changing. When someone just gets into a relationship, they behave differently, then they get married, and then that's a different behavior, and after many years of being together in a marriage, that's a different behavior. So the outward expression changes, yet there is something that drives that expression, and that is truly love. So when we, so how do I use this? When I start looking at behavior as love, then I become miserable because I expect that behavior to continue. But when I can see beyond the behavior, beyond the person as love, then I'm able to find that fulfillment in relationships. So if I really want to be feel that fullness in whatever else that I'm doing, then I need to start looking beyond person. And it's perfectly okay if we can't do it. To a certain extent, we are all able to do this. To a certain extent, we are all able to look beyond the person, isn't it? And the third thing Gurudev says very beautifully, when you lose your personality, you become love. If you cannot lose yourself, you cannot find yourself. Now, this is a very interesting statement. When I have an idea of I am this, then it's a limited identity. So many times, if I even want to describe myself, who am I, then I can keep going on and on and on. And yet, it never feels complete. So if I hold on to an idea of me as me, then it's limiting. But if I'm able to go beyond that identity, then I can really appreciate who or what I am. In that sense, our our whole idea of who I am actually prevents us from knowing who I am. When I'm satisfied with the limited identity, then I don't get the totality of what I am. So how do I use this in my life? Don't, if your immigration officer asks you who are you, don't say, well, I don't know who I am. You'll never get the visa stamp. But when I'm meditating, when I'm with myself, when that awareness is there, then when I don't limit myself, then I get the fullness of what I am. So for example, in my interact, if I'm in my office, then I need to have my identity. And I, when I'm doing work in the world, I need to have my identity. But when I want to meditate, then dropping that identity allows me to be in myself. And then Gurudev says, behind every object is infinity. An object is limited. Often we think an object is infinity. Like, I want my phone to be there all the time. I think that the objects around me, my house, my this thing, that thing, we want to preserve it, we want it to stay. And when something happens, we become miserable. So here Gurudev says very beautifully, beyond the object. When we hold on to objects, then it becomes greed, then it makes us miserable. But when we're able to go beyond the objects, then I'm able to find the fullness, the satisfaction. So Maya is getting caught up in the event, personality, or object. And this is what happens in life. We get caught up in all these things. But Brahman is seeing beyond the event, personality, or object. And Gurudev says so beautifully, see just a little shift. Often we think that spirituality is very difficult. Oh my God, all these great words, Maya, Brahman, infinity, object, personality, love. Many of us are shaking our heads, yes, yes, yes. But it seems, oh my God, no, 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 not for me. Kashi Bhaiya, you are sitting, what a nice background, the Rishikesh, Ganga flowing. You have a long hair, beard, you can say all of these things. But me, not at all. I don't think I can. No. This is something, don't you think so? In the meantime, if you have any questions, please go ahead, and you should be able to unmute yourself now. Okay. There seem to be no questions, or yeah, or you can also put your questions on the chat.
Actually, Kashi Bhaiya, we need to understand it in depth because it's a lot to take in.
Right, of course, of course. So we'll be looking at one knowledge sheet every week, and this week, of course, was the first week. So we started off with the first one. Next,
The sound keeps going away.
someone to put in a random number. Okay, I'll take this question. in the meantime, is being passionate about work means it's cause of Maya? You can be passionate at work because of Maya or in spite of Maya. You know, uh, we can do things because we are happy or wanting to be happy. Both way we are doing things, but in one we are looking for happiness as an end goal, but in the other we are doing things out of a sense of being happy. I think, yeah, the network is an issue.
because it keeps going away off and on in between.
Yeah, so beyond the event is knowledge. Just when we look at this event and say, hey, the internet is bad, and but when we look beyond it, why is this happening? What is the knowledge from this? Then it just transforms our experience of this event. So if you can't hear me properly from time to time, that's definitely a feature and not a bug. It's actually illustrating the knowledge sheet that we are discussing right now. Please explain more about object and infinity. You know, Gurudev says very beautifully that when you take an object and you keep breaking it up into smaller, smaller pieces, you finally reach the atom, and the atom is infinite. Because the more you go into the atom, science actually says this, that uh, quantum physics actually talks about how an atom is really a probability. As you go and you see that, hey, it's all strings, vibration. So in a certain sense, every particle of this is being passionate about. Should we ever try to control our thoughts, or should we just let them pass, thinking of them as clouds and that they will disappear? The way to control the thoughts, it's like having a kite and you have the string in your hands. The way to control the kite is not to hold on to the kite, but to control. Trying to say this mind, okay, I'm going to directly tell it not to do this. Okay, I'm going to see the that infinity and not the object. I'm going to see the love and not the person. I'm going to see the knowledge and not just the event, the limited event. Well, doesn't happen. But when we do our sadhana, when we do our practices, when we meditate, then knowledge become flowers as a happening. So in that sense, if you really want to have a say thought after it has come, is almost impossible. Continue as we go through life, we see that all the thoughts that we really want, they start coming, and all that is unwanted stops coming up altogether. So many people I have taught, who have had certain tendencies in the mind. Maybe they would get angry very easily, or they would get afraid very easily. After practicing meditation regularly, all those tendencies just fall off naturally. So can I stop an individual thought from coming? I don't really think so. Yet, can I culture the kind of thoughts that come up in my mind? Yes, definitely. There is a way. And that is why this whole this whole path is there. That is why so many techniques, that is why so many tools are there. And all of these help us to achieve that. Okay, great. So I had promised Shweta that we'll do a half an hour session. And so these knowledge sheets are very simple. Some of them are wrong, and if I can record it also so that I can upload it to YouTube later on for you to take a look at it whenever it's possible. Please throw some more light on an event and knowledge and the correlation between the two. When we take an event in isolation, then it does not give us a full picture. There is a classic story of the guru and the three disciples. The three disciples touched the first person touched the leg and said it's a tree, and the third person touched the trunk and said it's a pipe. And and so and so all of them were wrong, and the guru came and opened the blindfold, and when they opened the blindfold they saw, hey, it's really an elephant. So in that sense, when we look at an event in isolation, we get wrong knowledge. But when we are able to look at the event in totality, then we get right knowledge. So for this week, we'll kind of take a pause here. Next week, I promise I'll have better internet connectivity and we'll make sure things happen. Rishikesh is a very spiritual town, and things can keep changing. It's nice to live in the present moment. So thank you all for participating. I enjoyed watching this thing live on YouTube. Uh, and I'm sure we'll all better and better at it. So, since no one has suggested any knowledge sheet 120, and oh, this is a very nice one. It's the five signs of a Sadguru, of a in the presence of the Sadguru, knowledge flourishes. I will share this in the in the messaging, and if you have the book yourself, you can refer to it. Weekly knowledge sheet number 120, the five signs of a Sadguru. This is what we'll be looking at next week. So if you want, you can think about it, Jai Gurudev.